Hey folks, Chris once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another request this time from Brock. Thank you so much for your generosity. And he wanted me to review another episode of Goosebumps. And this is for the episode Go Eat Worms, which I've seen many times as a kid. And this episode is pretty okay. I didn't love it. It's definitely better than ones like the one with the killer sponge or the one with the evil baby, or even couple more. It's definitely better than the one with the evil baby, but it's basically about this kid who is obsessed with worms. Like, his room is covered in nothing but worms. He's made himself and all that shit. And he has a project for school, and he's basing it on worms, like how do worms live, how long can they live with being cut up to pieces, stuff like that. And he has a friend, I forget his name. I forget the name of the main kid. I think his name is John. I forget the name of the main kid, but he basically pranks people with worms, so the worms take on revenge, and you get some pretty creepy scenes with the worms. There's a scene where the kid's sleeping, and he puts his face down into a pillow with a pile of worms, and he wakes up, and there's worms all over his legs and feet, and he screams bloody murder, which I would too. And then there's a scene where these worms are peeking out of the dirt. Pretty cool looking, tiny little squid looking effects. He's got a sister that he likes to bully all the time. There's a scene where she has this big bird thing, and she tries to grab it, and worms fall out of its mouth and all over her. I'm like, dude, that wasn't really nice. I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't really nice to do to your sister, but who wouldn't with their sister of that age? I bully my sister. I'm joking. But there's a pretty disgusting, probably the grossest scene in the whole episode, where his friend and him are, I guess they're trading lunches with spaghetti with a sandwich, and then his friend gives him his spaghetti and he eats it, and there's like a worm in it. There's a close up on his mouth, and there's like a worm inside it, and he eats it. That took a lot of guts for a kid to do that, the actor to do that. And then he gets pissed, and then the main kid's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't me." And he's like, "You and your fucking worms, man, I'm fucking done with you." But then the kid's sneaking out at night to get more worms for whatever reason, and his sister pops by a couple times when he's outside walking, but he basically falls through the ground outside onto this underground filled with worms. He's laying down in it, and there comes this big giant fucking Godzilla version of a fucking worm, and it wraps around him, and he screams, which is a pretty horrific scene, man. That thing almost killed him. I'm not joking. A poor actor. And he manages to get back out, and she has the robin, the bird that the kid fixed, which he gets more likable towards the very few last minutes of this episode. He does fix her robin for her, and he starts taking all his warm stuff down out of his room and all that stuff. So he gets more likable towards the end of the episode. But the bird she's holding scares off the worm, and then the kid starts fixing the girl's bird. He starts taking down some of the warm stuff in his room, and then he's done with the warm stuff. So the next day, he basically becomes obsessed with fish, which makes more sense to me. Fish are way more interesting than worms. But they're sitting on a raft, and he sees a sandwich, and he's like, "I don't think about your sandwich, man." And his friend's like, "That's not my sandwich, dude." And he's like, "Oh, really?" one thing about it anyway, even there's a literal fucking string on the other side of the sandwich with a hook in it, but he bites it anyway. It looks like there's nothing between those two pieces of bread. It looks like it's just two pieces of bread, but he bites it and the kid goes fucking flying into the river, and he's basically about to, and then I guess the fish are dragging him somewhere. It's just a POV shot of the water, him drowning and coming back up out of the water, and he's like, "Oh, I promise I'll never hurt you, never again." And then he basically says, "Oh, what? You're gonna make me swim back?" So you get the gist that he survived. He just swam back out of the river. Which the kid didn't die for once in these shows, but because usually any kid or main character in Goosebumps or The Haunting Hour ends up dying a horrific death. So this kid may or may not have survived. You don't know, because he's like, "You're gonna make me swim back," but you don't know, which is a pretty creepy feeling, man. That was a pretty powerful ending. And that was Go Eat Worms. I liked it. I think the book, I don't think I remember reading the book of this, but I remember seeing this episode a couple times. I like it. The acting by the two kids are good. The little girl, her acting was okay. I didn't like his mom though. Her acting wasn't that great, but I like the two boys and the little girl. They were pretty good actors in this episode of what they had to do. The worms were pretty disgusting to look at. The scene where the kid eats the fucking worm, nightmare fuel. But yeah, it was a fine episode. I give it a 7 out of 10. It was fine. But yeah, so let me know what you think in the comments below of Go Eat Worms. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Did this episode scare you as a kid? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Take care. And I'll see you later, guys.